Hey, Sami here. I'm not your typical job counselor. I work remote and I travel the world as I kickstart careers. This is raw, real, and on the...
Hi, I'm Sami, and this is the Career Kickstart Show. I am super excited to have Katie on because she is going to talk all about how she spontaneously left nursing school and jumped into her own holistic wellness practice. And, usually when you talk to, folks in the medical field, it's kind of like a pretty simple blueprint that they follow. But Katie has definitely broke the mold and forged her own path. But I'll let her talk a little bit more about her career journey. So, Katie, if you will, can you give us your elevator pitch?
Great. So I'm Katie. Right now I am a teacher of holistic wellness, and I've been studying holistic wellness and spirituality for the past 5 to 7 years. And right now I'm focused on more writing and movement and meditation to help people who feel stuck in some area of their lives to kind of peel back the layers and dig deep into themselves and get some clarity.
And awesome. Thank you, Katie. So how did this journey begin? You're in nursing school, and that I worked in a medical school library, so I've seen the process that nursing students have to go through. It's rigorous, it's intense.
Yeah.
You talk about your education and kind of up to the point where you're like, I'm spontaneously leaving.
Yeah, I know. My education, when on paper, it looks like it's all over the place. I went into college actually thinking I was going to be a physical therapist, and I ended up finding myself in nursing school for 4.5 years. And I decided to leave nursing school during one semester. I remember I went to my mom's house to go study to get a change of scenery, and I was laying on her bed, kind of whining about school because it's dozens and dozens of hours of just studying on top of classes every day. And I was like, what if I just leave? And I had this feeling of really deep joy thinking about leaving. And that was something kind of taboo to talk about because I worked so hard to get into nursing school, and it was a really competitive place to be. Just the idea of even talking about leaving was only a joke. You don't leave nursing school after spending all these years of getting in, and 600 people applied and there are only 40 spots, and I was lucky enough to get one of those spots. But I remember having this deep feeling of joy, what if I just drop out? And my mom's like, oh, how do you feel about that? And I'm like, I feel really happy. So, anyway, I didn't continue studying that night. I went to school for one of our final exams, and I just decided, I took the test, and I kind of purposefully set it up to where I was just I kind of put it in the hands of the universe without consciously thinking I was doing that. I'm like, I didn't study. I'm just going to quickly go through these questions. And if I pass the test, then I'll just stay and hang in there. And if I fail, then I'll leave. And I ended up missing the point that we had to make on each test by 1 point. And I snuck out of school. My teacher saw me, asked me if I was okay, and I'm like, I don't want to talk, and I left. And it ended up being this big ordeal. Leaving nursing school felt a little bit dramatic, actually. And it kind of jump-started this journey of doing what I really wanted to do, because I was in college at that point for 5 years, and things I wanted to do. I jumped in a yoga teacher training. I started an internship with a holistic doctor, and I started traveling and going outside and doing all these things more. And that's when I kind of learned I can be my own leader, and I can be a little bit more autonomous. So several years of that, or a few years of that, it's brought me to here, where last year I was traveling across the country in my van, and doing workshops, teaching, and doing some remote computer work to kind of complement the gaps of teaching and stuff, just kind of trying to find where I fit. And that's brought me to where I am now, trying to launch my own online business of teaching and building community. And yeah.
Awesome. leaving nursing school is such a brave move. And it seems like you've been kind of doubling down on those bold maneuvers, just
Yeah.
the traveling, doing, the van life, the holistic van life and stuff like that. You definitely have been going outside the box with your career. What would you say is one thing that has surprised you by, starting to take these dramatic moves? Like what, because I know that a lot of times people are like, oh, if I only had done that, but you actually did that. Most people, when they say, oh, I'm gonna, travel the country, you're like, ah, yeah, right. You actually did that. So what was the big surprise for you when you just started making these crazy big moves?
I was surprised at how well things worked out. Like, cause I was coming from a place of, like a lot of schedule, like the academia world is like, do this and then do this, then follow this, like, just this very distinct path, I guess you could say. And, this thing that I had in my head was like, once you finish nursing school, you'll have the financial freedom and the scheduling freedom to go do all these things you want. And I could do all these things that I want to do on top of my nursing career. It was this thing ingrained in my brain every day at school. Like the teachers are preaching this to us. And once I quit and I started doing it, I'm like, wow, it was so easy for me to go to yoga school and get a job as a yoga teacher and study under these amazing people. Like, because I was following this passion, there's a ton of risk and like things didn't work out perfectly, but because I was so certain that the only path was nursing school, like many years ago, I guess that's what surprised me the most. It's like, oh, since I'm this passionate drive that I have is helping me actually get these things going. Like I don't feel stuck and limited. Like the world is my oyster a little bit. And there's it's not that easy when like looking back at it retrospectively, like nothing's that easy, but just that the difference between like being dragged down in nursing school and feeling stuck and trapped and just overly stressed to figuring out how to I've been self-employed since then. So yeah, the power of passion was definitely something that surprised me.
I love that because I've had a similar experience, and I decided to, start kind of nomading around and just kind of, doing my online business and then traveling a bunch. I put so much effort into that like first launch off, but everything turned out to be a lot easier than I thought. I think we have to let go of those expectations. Like, think, okay, well, we have to do this plan, or else it's going to be so terrible, blah, blah, blah. But when you get outside of the box, like, you're like, oh, the air's great out here. Why was I in that box for so long?
Yeah, right? Our minds, we limit ourselves with our minds so much, don't we?
We do limit our potential, because we're kind of scared to go outside of the norm. But for you, what was something that, we kind of talked about what you learned. What's something that you kind of like turned out to be a mistake in your career? Because I know that is something that is like the best learning for a lot of people is learning from a mistake. What would you think is one that you have made in your career?
I guess it kind of ties into what I was just saying. Like, I wonder what I would have done if I wasn't just so scared. Like a financial block was a real block for me. Like leaving nursing was me getting rid of a very stable salary. And it's a job that I can do all over the world if I wanted to. It's a very supportive job. And I still am like working through this fear of not having enough money. And every time I let myself like kind of get in that hole of like, what if I don't have enough money? I notice like all these things not working out. And then when I do get like in the mindset of being really excited about this project I'm working on, I'm not sure where the money is going to come from. I'm not sure how long the money will last, but I'm excited. And in the moment, these things are working out a little bit better for me. So it's, I'm learning to kind of find the balance of like, we need to be reasonable and like we need to make money to like have our livelihood and stuff, but also like kind of consciously notice how often we're negatively thinking about our bank account. I've let the fear of money stop me from doing a lot of things. And one of them was nursing school. Like I dropped out of nursing school and I tried to go back and I got in this weird funk for a little bit. But once I got out, and I had all these good ideas that worked out because I was so excited. I don't know if that's making sense because it's such there's a fine line between being reasonable about how much money I make and maybe compromising, like having a part-time job while I work on this side project so I have enough income to keep doing that, and tiptoeing into just relying on this business that I'm creating for myself, you know?
Yeah, no, I completely get that. You know, that is a common mistake where people get psyched out by either a perceived or a real lack of resources, you know? So that is something where if you're going to be bold, you kind of have to, you know, embrace the risk. So it's good that you kind of learn from those mistakes of kind of like undoubling, you know, on your bold. One thing that I find really interesting from folks who are doing a career change as you are, you know, going from nurse to wellness entrepreneur, is how some people work their transferable skills. You know, the things that were skills from their old career and they're using them in new and different ways. What do you think are some skills that you are using from your nursing days in your new practice? Some that you may have expected, but do you have any unexpected transferable skills that are like, oh, wow, this is really handy to just have along for entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this the other day. Like, some people are like, wow, you spent 5 years in nursing school and didn't even get your license. Like, that's useless. But I use my nursing education and my college education every single day. Like, in school, we had internships in the hospital and stuff, and I worked as a nurse assistant for 2 years, and that really taught me the autonomy and like time management and just caretaking, like how to just genuinely take care of another human and listen to them and things like that. And I was just like observing something at work the other day and noticing like, oh, this comes really easy to me because I've practiced it for so many years in many different ways, in nursing, in massage, in yoga, in working for a summer camp for adults. So just that the being held responsible part of nursing school, like kind of having that drive, like at nursing school, it almost feels like this rally of like, go, study, learn, know all the things. And I definitely see that come across in me today, like sitting in front of my computer, launching an online business, that little energies from nursing school.
Awesome. I love that because it's so true. Like if you invest in yourself, it's never a waste. You can always keep using those skills in new and different ways. So, you know, I'm going to switch gears before we get to the end of the interview. I want to ask you, what is the best piece of career or life advice that you have gotten?
Career or life advice. It ties back to everything that I've been saying before, but like thinking about when I was feeling stuck and trapped or miserable for a period of time, I have a lot of teachers who have taught me that importance of doing more of what I love. Like even as I have this remote contract job that I'm just doing to pay the bills and keep my momentum going in my new business, say I'm not excited to go do that job one day, but I get in the mindset of like, oh yeah, I only have to do this for 3 hours and then the rest of the day I'm free. Like I could be doing this from anywhere in the world. So be grateful for that. I can go for a hike before or after it, or I can take my dog for a walk at the beach. Like kind of training yourself to, say you're feeling stuck in something, to like be there, and like it's okay to feel stuck, it's okay to feel miserable at your job, but also allowing yourself to kind of learn what that feeling is. Like, what do I love? I love to go to the beach. I love to hike. I love to travel. I love to see live music. I love to host community events, and just how do you say that? Sprinkling in a little pieces of those things that you love into these moments that you're not so happy with, so that you can learn how to balance the two and how to maybe incorporate more of what you love without just totally abandoning this life that you hate. More of learning rather than running from the thing that you don't like.
Oh, I love that. That's kind of like the idea of just, be here now, and do what you can in that moment. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that bit of advice with us. I know that in 2018, the job market, you need to be able to know to mix in the sweet with the sour. So thank you, Katie. And thank you again for being on the show. How about you let everybody know where they can find you online and what you're doing next?
Right now, my most recent project, I just launched a mini course called Mindful Journaling. And if you go to my website, katiescoggins.com, I have a little tab with the mini course right in there and a little explanation about it on what you'll get in the mini course. And you can find that there. So in the mini course, what we do is a lot about what I talked about with Sami here, but we kind of start off learning how to write and use journaling or writing as a tool to get the things out of your mind and onto paper so that you can have clarity, because we have so many thoughts throughout the day, and sometimes we don't realize how much we're thinking or how much we're thinking negatively or not focusing on this thing we really want to, and things like that. So we kind of learn to write from the heart and soul, identify what it is that you really want, what it is you really love to do, and what fears or blocks are stopping you from kind of moving into that. And then I do some meditations and show some tools on how to move that and I identify it and stuff. So I'm hoping to make a community where this is a conversation, because that's what's helped me the most. And all my career changing, all my personal growth and stuff is having someone to witness and talk to about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. That's that will also be in the show notes. So if you guys are listening and you want in on it, they'll definitely be in the show notes. Check there. Katie, thank you so much again for being on the show. I encourage all the listeners to check you out because you are on the rise. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me. It was great talking to you.
You're welcome. And thank you all for listening. I'm Sami Gardner, and this is the Career Kickstart Show.